Hi there.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Carrie's Collection. I'm Will.
I'm Cinnamon.
So we all have different business models. We all operate in different parts of the country, and we all source and sell different types of items. So literally, there are no two businesses that are identical. And so I kind of wanted to reach out to the community and kind of present you with one of the things that's kind of like running in the background for us, that's kind of been on our minds, and something that we're going to have to think forward to coming this fall. So our daughter has talked about possibly moving back home with us. Mm-hmm. So we're currently operating in a spare bedroom, and we have our inventory in our den.
Yeah.
So our den is a small room, like 10 by 11. Mm-hmm. This room is relatively small as well, 11 by 12. So we're operating on just a couple hundred square feet. Literally, we manage our entire business operation, all of our inventory, everything that we do from both of these rooms.
Right, which I really love. And it's really important to me because I like being able to close that door at the end of the day.
Right.
And you know, having that separation between work and family.
Yeah, it can be really tough. When I first started this business, the room that we're currently in, one of our spare bedrooms, technically it's the spare bedroom. Mm-hmm. We had decided at one point, we had a friend that was struggling a little bit, so we, let them rent the room for a couple $100 a month, and just for a place to stay until they were able to get things stable in their life. And so I was operating the business out of our den as well then, but it was just me.
Right,
and
right.
Our business wasn't
what it is now.
Like half the size of what it is now.
Right, right.
And even then, there were days that
tight.
I would go to the auction. I'd come home with
everything would be in the living room.
50, Christmas villages, and it would all be stacked up, 4 feet high and 8 by 8 square on the floor in the living room. And you weren't real happy about that?
No, not so much. No. When we have to move boxes to try to see the TV or to walk through the living room, which is how you enter our house.
Right. And you kind of feel like a hoarder at that point. At least that's how I felt. And we also had, totes of inventory stacked up to the ceiling in our bedroom at the same time.
Yeah.
And again, the business was smaller. Right. With regard to sales. Yeah. So, my question, first of all, is how do you guys operate your businesses? Are you guys functioning primarily out of your home? Are you using a spare bedroom? Are you using a garage, a basement? Are you using a shed? So please comment down below. What do you use for your storage of your inventory, and how do you operate your business? Because, I could see if you were doing this as a 200 listings, maybe you have a couple of small totes in your closet, and you could do all your business on your phone.
Yeah.
We have a little bit bigger business center than.
Yeah, I worry about the cost associated with a storage unit. I'm curious, if you run your business out of a storage unit, then what is the cost involved in that? Because that's going to come directly out of your profit, because
right.
That's really what it is. So, I'm very concerned. Luckily we do have the way that we store our jewelry is so ideal. So we're talking about having our desk here in the storeroom, and then basically taking everything that's not the file cabinets here and stacking it in totes in our bedroom. Yeah. Getting rid of whatever extra dressers and stuff that we have so that we can have more room.
Go back to living with our inventory, which is really hard. And honestly, the IRS, they really want to see if you're writing off business space, that you're only using it for business. So,
Which is nice,
we can't really write off our bedroom because it's our bedroom.
Right.
So even though we're going to store inventory in the bedroom, we can't write that off as a tax deduction because it's our bedroom. We sleep and live in there. And I don't want to live around my inventory. I really don't want to do that. But so some things to consider, if you do have a suggestion about what we could do, we do live in Florida, hot, humid all the time. So if we were going to go to a storage unit, one of the things that we've talked about is it would have to be climate controlled. The extreme humidity here will cause any type of fabric or paper to mold, mildew, algae. It's going to degrade very quickly.
Yeah.
So everything has to be protected from the humidity. And then insects. If anyone's ever been to Florida, you know that this state is miserable with insects. You have bugs as big as your hand, and they will get into anything that they perceive to be food. So I've literally picked up newspapers, and there's been bugs eating the newspapers because
it's awful. And obviously that's not an option for what we have.
Right, right. We've talked about outdoor storage. And the same thing would apply is that if we had a container brought in, or if we brought in a steel storage shed,
it would have to be climate controlled.
It would have to be climate controlled 24/7 with humidity control to protect literally anything outside of maybe dishes.
Yeah. I can't think of anything that we could put out there that it would be okay in the elements, because like I worry about my jewelry tarnishing or, because of the high humidity.
Right. Paper tends to get yellowed, brown, so you'll see some age toning on it, or if there's high humidity, you'll start to see some foxing, which is like speckles of brown. Here it's so bad that, you'll have even a photograph and the whole thing will, it'll curl, but the whole thing will end up turning brown and basically starting to rot in a very short period of time. I talk about all the time, it's very rare for me to find anything that's more than 100 years old with regard to ephemera. To begin with, we had the Civil War, 1860s, but
lots
also,
of things burned.
Right, a lot of things were destroyed during that period, but also the fact that the climate before 1960s, there was not air conditioning in Florida. So if it's been here that long, it's probably disintegrated. So it is certainly a big challenge for us. So that's kind of where we're at, is we're trying to figure out if our daughter does decide to come stay with us. Obviously our door's open and we want to make sure that we can support her in any way we can. But how do we manage our business? How do we continue to, be profitable? Profit is certainly another thing, is that, I worry that if you start getting into the hundreds, several $100s a month, and then the storage fees start eating your lunch.
Right. Which is my biggest concern as well. We're already working so hard for every single penny. And to take such a huge chunk right off the profit line in the very beginning is really scary in my head. So that's, that really is, it's really scary.
Right. So one of the things that I've thought about is, maybe trying to go back through some of our older inventory or go through some of the inventory that I've bought that is yet to be listed, and try to clear out some of that stuff, either liquidate it, try to wholesale it off to somebody who's in the industry, sell it as bulk lots. We do our whatnot shows, so we'll probably throw some of it in there. Honestly, some of the older magazines and stuff that are not in great condition will probably just end up in a recycle bin. So that's our plan to downsize.
Right. To just go through and purge basically.
But you're talking about your space. I'm afraid it's going to limit our growth.
Yeah. Well, and we talk about the fact that that's already a concept in our head when we're making our buys. Is that, we do think about how are we going to store this, because we do only have so much room. So the jewelry and stuff is very small, and that's really where I focus on my stuff. And you've been doing a pretty darn good job of focusing more and more on the paper. So we're not getting necessarily those big buys where we're buying 50 village pieces, That's not really where we're getting our inventory anymore. So at least there's that.
Right.
You know, we do occasionally get the ornaments and things like that, and maybe that's just part of our new thought process is to focus down even more on smalls.
I was gonna say we're gonna be selling like just playing cards or like I don't even know, buttons or something that's like so tiny that you could just, you know,
throw it in an envelope and throw it in our cabinets.
Yeah.
Basically, if it doesn't fit in a file cabinet is where my mind is going, which kind of limits, you know, we do occasionally find the board game that, you know, we're able to do, or that clock, or, you know, goodness, that Mickey Mouse, the Steamboat Willie that we had, that was huge.
Absolutely huge. But where would he live?
Yeah. Yeah.
The one of the things that had me thinking about this is that, you know, I watch other people's channels as well. And, you know, there's people that have sheds and, or multiple sheds or basements. And it, like, when I see that, it just has me salivating. And it's like, my goodness, how amazing would it be to have that,
all that extra room to be able to.
Right.
Well, when we were living,
like, we're all different.
Yeah. When we were living in Michigan, we had more of an option for like the garage. It wasn't quite as bad.
The humidity control
as
the humidity
it is here.
Was much lower, and it didn't have the extreme heat, but it had freezing temps. So, you know, again, that does play a role in certain things. And, you know, I don't know how well jewelry would hold up in non-climate controlled environment there
like
either.
I said, I'm worried that it's going to tarnish, and then what do you do
on the costume especially? And that's the majority of what our jewelry business is. Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at, is we're kind of at an impasse. We have a plan to downsize.
Yeah.
But it's not really the I'm not really crazy about it. I'm not crazy about having, you know, storage racks in our bedroom. I'm not crazy about shrinking our business down to a 10 by 10 room.
Well, and then the other thing about that is, like, when we had the totes in the bedroom before, like, we just had them like stacked on top of each other, right? So to get, of course, every time you go to pull something, it's on the bottom tote. And then you have to unstack everything. And then, you know, oh God.
Our business is a little bit different now, so we do have more racks now, but it's still, you know, it's still awkward, it's still uncomfortable. You still, you know, again, I feel like most people want to have a little bit of separation between their job and their life, and not have to look at that piece of inventory that hasn't sold in 6 months.
Oh, that's the other bad thing. Yeah, no, that's rough when you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't.
If you have to be confronted by every bad buy every day when you go to bed,
right?
Like, I'm worried that that's not going to be a great
mental health
space.
Yeah, I agree.
So.
Well, and we're very curious as to what you guys have to say. I know a lot of you have been doing this for a very long time, much longer than I have. So what have you found over time, or if you're newer to this, and like what processes do you have in place? Because like we are very process motivated. So like share with the class what kind of things, you know, are you doing to try to maximize your inventory space and get the best bang for your buck?
Yeah, absolutely. So with that said, next week, we're going to be spending some time with family. So we're not going to be doing YouTube content. So I hope everyone has a wonderful 4th of July. And I hope that everyone stays safe out there. And
good luck to you guys out there.
Yeah,
Thanks
like
so much.
And subscribe.